Hi, welcome to Rules Challenge. I'm Carter Maxwell, and in this episode we're going to be taking a look at the expansion to Ark Nova Marine Worlds. This will just be the second time I've ever done a video on an expansion to a game. Some of you may have seen my other video that did the expansions for Hansa Teutonica. And before I played Marine Worlds, I was probably a little skeptical that there'd be enough material here to really warrant a video. But after I finished my first game, I asked my gaming buddies, if they thought it was worth doing a video on, and they both said absolutely, and I definitely agree with them. One of the things that's kind of fun about doing an expansion video is, normally I tailor my videos pretty much to newer players, so I stick to just the core mechanics of the game, but here I think it's safe to assume that everybody watching the video would be familiar with the base game, so I can take a little bit deeper dive into some of the specialty things, particularly with the new action cards that have some new abilities on them. Okay, I think we're ready to get into the challenge itself. As usual, though, I got to preface this for people who are new to the channel. What you're going to be seeing here is just basically a regular game being played, but after each turn, I'll just stop and ask legal or illegal, and your job is to guess whether what was done during that turn was correct. And then I'll just pause the video for a few seconds, and then I'll go on and answer the question and give some explanation. As usual with my videos, the game is already well underway. You can see Red already has plenty of enclosures flipped over. And we're going to pick up the action on Red's turn. He's going to play his Animals card at Strength 3. This is one of the new action cards. And this one says, the first animal you play costs 2 credits less. Red will play the Greater Flamingo, and that has a base cost of 16. But with the discount from the Animals card, it'll be 14 instead. Also, that's a European animal, and Red has the European Partner Zoo, so that'll further reduce it from 14 to 11. So Red will pay the 11. Now Red needs to flip over an enclosure, and it needs to be at least a size 3 that's adjacent to water. He has an unoccupied 3-space enclosure here, which is next to the aquarium, so he'll go ahead and flip that. He gets 7 appeal for that animal, so he'll go ahead and mark that, moving from 22 to 29. Now he'll resolve Posturing 1, which says you may place 1 free kiosk or pavilion. He'll opt for a kiosk, and he wants to place it here, which is a restricted space. We'll verify that he has upgraded his build card, which he has. So he'll go ahead and place the kiosk. To wrap up the action, he'll move the Animals card to the first slot. Red's mistake was in treating the aquarium as if it's a water space for meeting animal enclosure requirements. The water icon you see on the aquarium functions like it does when you see it on an animal card. For one, it's indicating that you have to place the aquarium adjacent to a water space, like Red had done earlier here. And 2, it counts as a water icon for various effects that relate to water icons, such as the Aquatic Park final scoring card. But it doesn't serve the purpose that Red wanted here. The Greater Flamingo required an enclosure next to a water space, and since the aquarium didn't count as one, this ended up being an illegal placement. Now it's Black's turn, and she's going to play her association card at Strength 3. This is another of the new action cards, and she's upgraded it. And this one says, you may place additional workers to reduce the required strength by 2 each. Black will take advantage of that action card's ability and place 2 workers to bump the strength from 3 to 5. Now she'll play a conservation project card, and this one will be Low Mountain Range. This card will allow her to release a bird, but before she forgets, she's going to take 1 step on the reputation track. That will move her from 5 to 6. Now she needs to pick a bird to release, and she'll go with the African penguin. The penguin can go in either a 3-space enclosure or an aquarium, and it has to be next to rock and water. She has a 3-space enclosure right here next to rock and water, so she'll go ahead and turn this to its unoccupied side. Now she needs to place one of her markers on the conservation project card, and hers happen to be penguins also, and she'll do this one here, which will give her a 5 credit immediate bonus. So she'll gain that. She'll place her marker on the middle space for animals requiring 3-space enclosures, and that'll get her 4 conservation points. We'll mark those. 1, 2, 3, 4. For passing this space, she gets to claim a bonus, and she'll go with the one that will give her 3 X tokens. She'll discard the bonus token and take her 3 X tokens. Now she needs to lose 6 appeal for releasing the penguin. So she'll move her marker down from 27 to 21. To finish releasing the penguin, she'll move it to the discard pile. And to wrap up her turn, she'll move the association card to the number 1 slot. There are a few interesting things from this turn, but let's first talk about what Black did wrong. If you have an animal that can go in either a special enclosure or a standard enclosure, and you release that animal, you have to release it from the special enclosure if at all possible. Now earlier in the game, Black had played the penguin and put it into this 3-space enclosure, so she assumed that when she released it, she could release it from that enclosure as well. But she had an aquarium that was adjacent to rock and water and had at least 2 cubes in it, so she should have released 2 cubes from her aquarium rather than flip over that 3-space enclosure. I should mention that you could run into a situation where you could release an animal from either an aquarium or a reptile house. In that case, neither has priority over the other, so it would be your choice. Now yellow's up, and he's going to play his animals card at strength 3. This is another new action card, and this one says, if you play only one animal at strength 3 or more, you may ignore one condition. And he's going to play the pallet surgeon fish. That will cost 9 credits, so he'll pay those. And it requires 1 cube in an aquarium, so he'll place that. That animal gives him 4 appeal, so we'll mark that. Moving from 19 to 23. The surgeon fish is a reef dweller, so now yellow will activate all the reef dweller animals in his zoo. He just has 2, the surgeon fish and the devil firefish. The devil firefish allows him to gain an X token, so he'll take that. And then the surgeon fish allows him to spend an X token to gain 5 credits, or spend 5 credits to gain an X token. He'll spend the X token and gain the 5 credits. Now yellow wants to play another animal, so he'll play the Eurasian lynx. The lynx requires that yellow have 2 Europe icons, and he has 1 from the white stork here. And then he's going to use the ability on his animals card to ignore that second requirement. The lynx costs 11 credits, so he'll pay that. Now he needs to flip a standard 3-space enclosure, so he'll flip this one here. The lynx comes with a base 2 appeal, so we'll mark that. 1, 2. Also it says the lynx is an iconic animal. Gain 1 appeal for each Europe icon in all zoos to a maximum of 8. So yellow will get 1 from the lynx itself and 1 from the white stork, a 3rd from blue zoo, a 4th and 5th from red's animals, and a 6th from red's European partner zoo, and a 7th from black's animals. So we'll mark that, moving yellow from 25 to 32. To wrap things up, yellow will move the action card to the number 1 slot. This one might have been too obvious because I read the action card aloud at the start of the turn. But the thing yellow did wrong was, even though he played 2 animals, he used the special ability that's only allowed when you play just 1 animal. The Eurasian lynx was the second animal he played this turn, so he could not use this ability to ignore one of the requirements on the card. I should also point out from this turn that the way Yellow handled the reef dwellers was done correctly. If you recall, he played the surgeon fish, then first activated the reef dweller ability on the devil firefish to gain an X token, then activated the surgeon fish to spend the X token for 5 credits. And that's fine. When you trigger the reef dweller abilities on your animals, you can resolve them in any order you want. Now it's Blue's turn, and she's going to use her association card at strength 4, and this is just the standard card. She wants to take a university, so she'll put her worker on that space. And she wants to take one of the new animal universities, so she'll move this token aside and take the reptile university. She'll place it into her zoo, and that will allow her to upgrade a card. So she'll upgrade her cards card. For taking that university, she now gets to search the deck for a card with the reptile icon. The common European adder has the reptile icon, so she'll take that into her hand and she'll return the rest of these cards to the bottom of the draw deck. To wrap up her turn, she'll move the association card to the number 1 position. Okay, we finally had a legal turn, but there were a couple things on Blue's turn that people might have thought were strange. One was when she was digging through all those cards looking for a reptile icon, when she was done, all those remaining cards she put to the bottom of the draw deck rather than the discard pile, but that's correct. The other thing is, when she was going through those cards, she did come across one that had a reptile icon, but it was in the upper left-hand corner, and so it was correct that she did not take this one into her hand. In this case, the reptile is just indicating that it's a condition for playing the card as opposed to a regular animal icon which would appear in the upper right hand corner. Now we're back around to Red, and he's going to play his build card at strength 4. This is another of the new action cards, and this one says you may cover 1 rock or water space, gain 2 credits if you do. Red wants to build a 4-space enclosure, so he'll pay 8 credits for that. And now he'll put it here, covering 1 rock space and an X token bonus space. So he'll gain the X token. And now per his action card, since he covered a rock space, he'll get 2 credits back. And then to finish his turn, he'll move the build card to the number 1 slot. Everything Red did on that turn was correct. One thing I want to point out is just note the difference between the non-upgraded and upgraded side of this build 4 card. On the non-upgraded side, you can still cover rock or water, but when you do that, you pay an extra 2 credits. On the upgraded side, not only do you not have to pay the extra 2 credits, you actually gain 2 back. So in this case, when Red built that 4-space enclosure, his net expenditure was just 6 credits. And keep in mind that you can only use that ability to cover 1 rock or water space. So for example, Red could not have positioned the enclosure like this, covering 2 rock spaces. One thing I hear people ask a lot is whether or not that rock that you're covering can be used later to meet a requirement for an animal you're putting into that enclosure. Now, it wouldn't matter in this case because that enclosure is touching some other rocks, but let's just say those didn't exist. You would not then be able to put an animal in here that requires being adjacent to a rock, because that rock that you've covered essentially ceases to exist. Now it's Black's turn, and she's going to use her upgraded build card at strength 3. This is one of the new action cards that has a special ability. It says you may build more than one of the same standard enclosure, but that won't apply to what black intends to do this turn. She does plan, though, to make use of an ability on another of her cards. She has the diversity researcher in play, and that says you may cover water and rock spaces, ignore all requirements for water and rock spaces. First, black is going to build a kiosk over this water space, and that'll cost 2 credits. Then she'll use her last 2 strength points to build this 2-space aquarium, and she'll cover this rock and this bonus space for 5 credits. So she'll pay the 4 to place the aquarium, but then for covering that bonus space, she'll get 5 credits right back. And then to wrap up her turn, she'll move that build card to the number 1 slot. This one was really tricky, so even if you got it correct, let's make sure you got it correct for the right reasons. Now, hopefully everyone noticed that black had placed this aquarium without it being adjacent to a water space. This kiosk covers up this water space here, making that, not a water space anymore. And we talked about how this water icon on this large aquarium doesn't make it a water space for, adjacency purposes. And normally that would make this placement illegal, but we talked about how black is using the diversity researcher this time. So far, so good. It looks like what black did was legal. However, if you read the glossary entry for the diversity researcher, it says you may ignore all requirements regarding water and rock spaces when placing unique buildings and playing animal cards. Aquariums are not unique buildings. They're special enclosures. The term unique buildings is referring to the buildings that truly are unique, like a meerkat den or a baboon rock. So people have argued, and correctly I think, that the diversity researcher does not allow you to ignore water requirements when you're placing an aquarium. However, there's another plot twist. The publisher made an official ruling in January of 2023 that the intent was for the diversity researcher to also work when placing special buildings, such as an aquarium. So the final answer on whether or not it was legal for black to place this aquarium not adjacent to water is yes. All right, moving things over to yellow now. He's going to play this association card at strength 5. This is another new action card, and this special ability says, take partner zoos and universities from the supply. You may take those you already have. Yellow will place his worker on the space for taking a university, and he'll take the bird university here. He'll add that to his zoo, and that's going to give him 2 conservation points, but before he does that, he's going to search the deck for a card with a bird icon. And the Australian pelican has a bird icon, so he'll take that into his hand and return all these other cards to the bottom of the draw deck. Now he needs to take those 2 conservation points. He'll mark those, 1, 2, and that will allow him to claim a bonus, so he'll take this one for a partner zoo. He'll discard that bonus token right away. He wants the Asia partner zoo, but red had taken that earlier. But yellow remembers that he's playing that association card this turn that says, take partner zoos and universities from the supply. So he'll take the Asia partner zoo from the supply instead. He'll put it into his zoo, and that will allow him to upgrade a card. He's just going to follow the trend and upgrade his card. And then to wrap up his turn, he'll move the association card to the number 1 position. For everyone that noticed that yellow took that bird university when he already had a animal university, I want to be sure to point out right away that that is not what was done wrong. The special ability on that association card he was using did make that legal. Where it says you may take those you already have, that would also count a second animal university. I should also mention that the fact that blue had already used the generic university did not block yellow from taking an animal university like it would have blocked other players, again because of using the special ability on that association card. And if you check the glossary, you can see that clarification. The problem was with how yellow used that bonus token that allowed him to claim a partner zoo. He wanted a partner zoo that wasn't available any longer on the association board, but since he was using that association card with the special ability, he thought it was okay for him to claim it from supply. But that association card ability doesn't apply to zoos you obtain through bonus tokens. It applies to partner zoos you obtain through an association action, or in other words, from an action initiated by the card itself. So if yellow had taken an association action to claim a partner zoo, like here, then he could have taken it from supply. In fact, whatever partner zoo he took from this action would have had to come from supply as per the card. But because he was getting a zoo from a bonus token, the normal rules applied. And the publisher has confirmed this online. Now it's Blue's turn, and she's going to play her animals card at strength 5. First, she'll gain 1 reputation for playing it at strength 5. That'll move her from 9 to 10, and we know it's legal for her to cross that threshold because her previous turn she'd upgraded her card. And that will allow her to either draw a card from the deck or take a card from the display within reputation range. So she'll go ahead and take this lesser flamingo. We should take a look at the ability on her animals card. This is another of the new ones. It says, gain 1 reputation for any animal card you play from the display that has your marker on it. And that's exactly what she intends to do. She has a marker on the common agama on the first space of the display. So she'll move her cube back to her supply, and this will cost 1 credit to play it from the 1 slot, so she'll pay that. She'll put it into her zoo. That has a base cost of 9 credits. It is an Africa animal, and she does have the Africa partner zoo, so that'll reduce the cost to 6, so she'll pay that. Now she needs to put the agama into either a reptile house or a 1-space enclosure. She doesn't have a reptile house, and she just has the 1 unoccupied enclosure, so she'll flip that. Now, since she did play a card from the display that had her marker on it, she's going to take advantage of this ability and gain 1 reputation. That will move her from 10 to 11 and gain her a conservation point. So she'll move her marker from 2 to 3. Now Blue will take her appeal from the agama, and that will be 3. Moving her from 21 to 24. The common agama has Sunbathing 2, which says you may sell up to 2 cards from your hand for 4 credits each. She'll take advantage of that, discarding a couple cards and getting 8 credits back. Blue has decided to not play a second animal, so now that she's done with her action, she's going to take advantage of another ability of this card and place a new mark. And she'll put it on the Australian sea lion. To finish her turn, she'll move animals to the number 1 slot. Now we need to refill the display. The sawfish has a wave icon on it, so we need to remove the Australian sea lion, but that has Blue's cube on it. So instead of discarding that card, we'll put it into Blue's hand, return her cube, and that finishes the turn. There's not much I wanted to comment on from this turn. I mainly just wanted people to see that new upgraded animals card in action. But I will say this, don't be like me. When I'm using that mark ability, I'm constantly trying to mark like sponsor cards or conservation project cards. That's illegal. You can only mark an animal card. Now Red's up again, and he's going to play his animals card at strength 2. And this is the card we saw earlier that allows him to pay 2 credits less for the first animal he plays. Red will play the zooplankton card, and that would normally cost 4, but with the action card he's using, that'll cost just 2 credits, so he'll pay that. That animal requires an aquarium, but it doesn't take up any space, so red just needs to confirm that he has an aquarium. And he happens to have the large one. Now he wants to get his appeal from that card, and it'll just be 1. So we'll mark that. Now red will resolve the sea animal magnet effect that says add all cards with the sea animal icon from the display to your hand. Looking at the first 3 cards of the display, red sees the icon on the field research type D orcas, but he'll ignore it here. Looking at the next 3 cards, red sees it twice on the long-combed sawfish, so he'll take that card, and it's also on the sea turtle tank, so he'll take that one. To wrap up his turn, red will move the animals card to the number 1 slot. Now we need to refill the display. And there weren't any wave icons, so we're done. This turn dealt with an issue similar to one that we saw earlier where blue needed to decide which card to keep when searching for a reptile icon. In this case, it was red trying to decide which cards should be taken from the display, which seems like a repeat, but I wanted to focus on the sea animal magnet card because it is a little bit confusing if you look at the glossary. If you just read the card, it's pretty straightforward. Just add all the cards with the sea animal icon from the display to your hand. If you read the glossary, though, it makes it seem like you're not supposed to take sponsor cards. So in other words, you know that when red took the long-combed sawfish and the sea turtle tank, that he shouldn't have taken this one because it was a sponsor card. And the publisher has acknowledged that the wording in the glossary is misleading, so just go by what's written on the text of the card itself. Now black's up, and she's going to play the animals card at strength 4, and this is just the standard upgraded animals action card. For her first animal, she's going to play the sand tiger shark, and that animal requires an upgraded animals card. She's got that, so that's fine. And that'll cost 32 credits. So she'll pay that. The shark needs to go in an aquarium, and she needs to place 4 cubes, and it needs to be next to a rock space. If you recall from earlier though, black has the diversity researcher in play, so she doesn't need to worry about meeting water and rock requirements. Looking at her board, we see she has 2 aquarium spaces left in her large aquarium and 2 spaces left in the small aquarium. So she'll split the 4 cubes across those 2 aquariums. The shark gives black 1 conservation point and 8 appeal, so she'll go ahead and mark those now. The conservation point will move her from 7 to 8, so she'll have a chance to take a bonus, and she'll take this gray token here. She'll just hang on to that token for now for use later. And then she'll mark the 8 appeal, moving her from 21 to 29. She also needs to resolve the Shark Attack 2 effect, and that says discard 2 animal cards in reputation range from the display. Gain half the appeal of those cards, round down. Black has 4 animals to choose from, but the choice is pretty obvious with the mandrill that's worth 9 appeal and the capuchin, which is worth 5 appeal. So she'll use those. Those 2 cards combined are worth 14 appeal. Divided by 2 is 7. So black will gain 7 appeal, moving from 29 to 36. And then she'll discard those 2 cards. She's not going to play a second animal, so she'll move that action card to the number 1 slot. And then to wrap up her turn, we need to refill the display. Neither of those have a wave, so we're done. Black's turn was illegal just because of the somewhat mundane reason that when she was resolving that Shark Attack ability, she used a card, the Capuchin, that was out of her reputation range. Otherwise, everything else she did on that turn was correct. It took me a little bit surprised when I realized that one of the things Black did on her turn was legal, If you recall, she had an animal that had to take up 4 spaces in an aquarium, and she had 2 spaces available in one aquarium and 2 in another. And so she split the cubes across those 2 aquariums, and that is actually illegal. If you do that though, you have to make sure that both aquariums meet the requirements. It didn't matter in this case because Black had the diversity researcher, but if she hadn't had that, she would have had to put cubes in aquariums that were both adjacent to rocks, and so this placement actually would have been illegal. I also want to highlight how Black had calculated the appeal she got from the Shark Attack 2 effect. Now some people might say she did the math wrong, that 5 divided by 2 rounded down is 2, 9 divided by 2 rounded down is 4, so the total should be 6. But the glossary does clarify that you take the total appeal of the 2 animals, then divide by 2, then round down, and that's your total. One other thing I should touch on, just because it's new, is the gray bonus token. You might have noticed that Black obtained that, but didn't spend it this turn, and just held on to it, and that's fine. Unlike the yellow tokens, you don't have to spend these right away. You can hang on to them and use them on a later turn. Now yellow's up, and he's going to use his regular non-upgraded build card at strength 4. Yellow wants to build a second small aquarium, and that'll cost 4 credits, so he'll pay 5 and get back 1, and then he'll place it adjacent to this 3-space enclosure and covering this bonus where he can draw a card or take one from within reputation range. He'll opt to just draw a card, and to finish his turn, he'll move his build card to the first position. Yellow's mistake was pretty simple. He already had a small aquarium in his zoo, and then he built a second one. That's not allowed. You can have 1 small aquarium and 1 large aquarium, and that's it. As long as we're talking about small aquariums, one thing I should mention that I do hear questions about sometime is, let's say you've unlocked this bonus that allows you to build a 2-space enclosure during a break. Would you be able to use that to build a small aquarium, which is a 2-space enclosure? And the answer is no. That bonus allows you to build a 2-space standard enclosure, and the aquarium is a special enclosure, so you can't use that bonus to build an aquarium. I think I'm going to wrap things up there. If you think I got something wrong or just have some questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment. Otherwise, hope to see you for the next video. Thank you.